There we go.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday. And you guys know I do this with my co-host and bestie right there, Omari Salisbury. There he is. What's up, Big O? I missed you.
Miss you too, Trey Holiday, man. I was saying one day without you, it seems like a whole week, man.
Oh, I missed you guys so much, man. This training schedule's been tough on me this week, but I had to be here with my folks this morning.
Yeah. We saw you. We actually had a cameo of you yesterday on the show when you were, I guess, testifying over there in front of the city council. We're talking about the William Gross Center for Cultural Innovation, Fire Station 6. And so we played a clip of that yesterday.
Oh, thanks. Oh, I'm glad to know I was a part of the show. Still always with the fam.
Yeah, and barring something, unexpected, but this is the year of the unexpected. It looks like Monday, November 2nd, the city council will go ahead and vote and approve Bill 199905. Like I said, I'm getting my Kevin Schofield on out here. I can call the actual legislation numbers, and 906, which would be Fire Station 6 and the Central Area Senior Center. Fire Station 6, a 99-year lease. Central Area Senior Center, it looks like it's going to go transfer over to CSC. So
yeah, so great. I mean, such a long journey for Central Area Senior Center. I was so happy to see Diane. I know it was just a moment of elation, I think, because we were covering a lot of their journey right here on Converge. You know what I mean? And it's been a long journey. So just great to see those two properties come into community.
Definitely been covering it. People who don't know, these properties, yes, it looks like the process has been sped up right now, in the last few months, but it's been years. Fire Station 6 goes all the way back to, I think, Mayor Murray's administration. And Central Area Senior Center, they've been talking about doing that for decades, but everything's happening right now. Trey, man, the news is like it's kind of yucky this morning. You know what I'm saying? A really horrible story coming out your way out there, Federal Way. Hate crime coming out of the Federal Way. Did you hear about this?
No. So you're about to tell me right now.
I need to prepare you for it. Well, actually, let's start here in the city of Seattle. So last night, protesters were out in front of the West Precinct. It was great. I just live right over there. The West Precinct last night. It looks like somebody was trying to get out of a garage. I think they later said that it was Amazon security or someone like that. And the car ran into the protesters. And a lot of these protesters were people that were actually on the freeway months ago, back in July. Clip here, I let people know it's not crazy or anything like that, but it does show a car at a lower speed, running into protesters. There is a little bit of profanity in here as well. I'm on the dead side, homie.
What the fuck is your problem? Whoa! What the fuck?
All right, so there's quite a few videos that are out there, but Chris Rojas, we saw Chris Rojas was out there filming, so I'm going to talk to Chris Rojas later on today. But yeah, and it was a lot to say about this all over it, but this video is actually gone viral, like really all over the country right now. We weren't there. Chris Rojas was on the ground. Malcolm Tent was there as well. Renee Ricchetti was also there. There was quite a few media people who were there last night on the ground when that occurred, and that was right out in front of the West Precinct.
Oh my gosh. The thing is that you don't know how any of this is going to go from one night to the next. And that is true, because what we're really seeing out there in the streets, is a real, combination of multiple different varieties and perspectives. And, that person in their car, who knows, maybe they're not totally against the protest. Maybe they're just like, I'm trying to get home. Who knows what's going on with them? But the outward look of that is very bad. And the way that the media plays on these kinds of incidences is even worse. It really does create a snowball effect, though.
Right. And so that's what I said. I want to, I know one way or another, I know most of the people who were there last night are people who actually we go back months in the protest. So talk to some of them today. Also going to talk to some of the videographers who are out there. And Malcontent, Renee, and me, man, I like to talk to everybody, because video is, man, it's wild. But I mean, these things are hard to watch. And, once again, we see these cars and the protesters. But this some will follow up on a huge story that's come out of Federal Way. And actually, Steve Hickey from Impactful Lens, he called me yesterday about this. And we actually got some paperwork from the prosecutor's office about 5:00 yesterday. This is in Federal Way story right here. I think we got this from maybe Como. But what happened was it's a black guy there who basically was chased, they said, for 10 miles by two white guys, and he crashed his car and they basically beat him to a bloody pulp. And it's a hate crime. They will pull up the court documents here in a second. And they tried to say that he did a hit and run on them. But then when they reviewed the different cameras there in Federal Way, some of the cameras, the suspects, their story doesn't really add up. We're gonna play this clip right here and then let's discuss this. I know that's an area where you're at a lot, is out in Federal Way.
Churning and heinous. That is how prosecutors describe a hate crime in Federal Way. A black man was allegedly targeted and he was a target of a violent, bloody attack because of the color of his skin. Now, Kairos 7's Michael Spears is there live right now. And Michael, this case, it is disturbing, and prosecutors say it is part of a trend.
They say hate crime cases are on the rise in King County, with charges filed today for the latest that happened here in Federal Way early yesterday morning, when investigators say a black man had to be taken to the hospital after being chased down in his car and beaten to a bloody pulp.
The beating was so loud, one 911 caller heard it from inside his home, along with the N-word being shouted repeatedly. That neighbor said he saw the black man get hit at least 15 times before the victim was drugged from his car and repeatedly kicked multiple times in the head and body.
Saw a lot of cops. They had my neighborhood blocked off, and a BMW in the neighbor's yard.
Investigators said that BMW belonged to the victim, who was found on the side of the road in a pool of his own blood and unable to talk. Police said the two suspects were covered in the victim's blood and stopped nearby following the attack after blowing through a stop sign. Court documents state the two white men, identified as Eric Weiss and Travis Phillips, told police they had been rear-ended by the black victim in a hit and run along Pacific Highway, then chased the BMW down in a pursuit for more than 10 miles.
It was in somebody's front yard. It looked like it had some body damage.
Police say once in custody, one of the suspects said, "I beat his expletive because he was an N-word." Expletive, that black guy.
These two filings are the 45th and 46th hate crime charges that the King County Prosecutor's Office has filed countywide this year.
King County prosecutors who rush filed charges said those hate crime numbers are up from 37 last year and 29 the year before that.
When you see a case like this is amongst the most disturbing that we see in our county.
Now, police say they did pull surveillance video from city cameras and noted inconsistencies in the statements from the suspects on what they said happened here along Pacific Highway. We do know tonight both suspects remain jailed. They're also charged with first-degree robbery for allegedly taking the victim's wallet and shoes. That victim now recovering. For now, we're live in Federal Way. I'm Michael Spears, Cairo 7 News.
All right. Horrible story coming out of Federal Way.
Horrible story. And the thing is that it's sad how much it mimics so many other horrible stories across our nation historically. I mean, what they just spoke of in terms of the rise in cases over the last 3 years, from 29 to 37 to 47 to 46, that is letting us know that clearly there's a growing sentiment of hate that is real in King County. Those numbers were directed at King County, but we also know that this is really a national issue. And it's a sad thing to hear this story. I'm really just going to send some love right now to his family. You know what I'm saying? Either in Federal Way or beyond. And also to those who were hit earlier in the clip that we showed at the beginning. I mean, this kind of, violence, regardless, this right here, what these two white men did to him, and to sit there and actually say that it was because he was Black, he didn't say that it was because he was rear-ended. So the clip that they got there of him actually using his own words was because he was Black. This is horrible.
Yeah, hate crimes on the rise. Here's some of the charging documents came over here from the prosecutor, and it's very clear. He said, "I beat him because he was a F that guy. I beat him. I did that. I think I took that stuff." Yeah. So Satterberg, the prosecutor moved quick on this, and they put a $500,000 bond. They asked for $500,000. They got a $500,000 on it. So being held in the King County Jail. They'll be arraigned in November. And this was it's a crazy thing. Like I said, we were following this last night, and also so I got the victim. He on if you do like Facebook, you can see friend of friend. So the victim here is actually a friend of several of my friends on Facebook. I don't know the victim personally. I don't think so, but this is, it's a shocking crime, and like the prosecutor's office said, a very heinous crime, and right out there in Federal Way. And these things happen a lot closer than people think.
And let me also say this too, because I think that this may also address maybe a growing misnomer that because there are now concentrated pockets of, Black people in South King County, that they're not experiencing the same sentiments and racism that was felt in Seattle. That's obviously not true. These areas in South King County that have been exploited now with all of our Black families coming in because we can't afford to live in Seattle. Honestly, they weren't used to so many Black families. I experienced bouts of racism when we first moved here to Federal Way and my son was entering the school system. So there is a lot that families have to deal with when they do have to move around like this. So I also think that this addresses that growing misnomer.
Clearly, this is going to be a big story. It's not going anywhere, so we'll continue to follow it. Next up is coming out of city council. It's a lot of heat, smoke. There's some good things, bad things. So some of everything at the city hall. We haven't heard from Lisa Herbold for a while, but Lisa Herbold is rolling out a plan. Is basically trying to get rid of misdemeanors, a lot of misdemeanors. Saying that, if you're experiencing poverty, drug use, or mental health, that she wants to get rid of misdemeanors. Clearly, there's a lot of people who are against that as well, as you can imagine. Here's a story right here. I believe this one is from Como.
Right now, Seattle City Council is considering new legislation that could dismiss misdemeanor crimes like assault and vandalism for criminals who argue that they acted because of addiction, mental illness, or poverty. Critics say it would open up the floodgates to crime in the city. It's a story we brought you yesterday, and today Como's Patrick Quinn went one-on-one with a council member who's sponsoring the bill. What's her rationale, Patrick?
Hey, Eric. Seattle City Council member Lisa Herbold said this change is needed now while they're deciding next year's budget. She said they're figuring out what investments in the city are working and what aren't. She said each year the city of Seattle allocates $20 million towards incarcerating people. This legislation would cut into that, she said. However, those challenge it, saying, would it actually curb crime? Should criminals be let off of misdemeanor crimes if they acted out of duress? That's the question right now before the city council. Critics like Scott Lindsay, former public safety advisor to the city, said this would give a green light to crime.
This would absolutely open the floodgates to crime in Seattle.
Councilmember Lisa Herbold, who's proposing this legislation, adamantly disagrees.
It is definitely not a get out of jail free card. Thank you.
Why not?
Because it just like is the occurrence now, it will be up to a judge or a jury to decide whether or not the duress defense is valid.
Councilmember Herbold said this new legislation expands the definition of duress. So now defenders could argue on behalf of a criminal that he or she acted out of symptoms of addiction or symptoms of a mental disorder or poverty, and that in those cases, a misdemeanor crime could be thrown out. But does this proposed legislation sympathize with the criminal over the rights of a victim of assault, harassment, or vandalism? I asked Anita Candelval, Director of Public Defense for King County, what if you're mugged by someone who needs money to survive?
Provide a more holistic view of what the person charged with the crime was experiencing at the time that they engaged in the conduct.
Herbold said this legislation strengthens the criminal justice system by ensuring judges have sufficient information before they send someone to jail or back on the street.
That is the intent of our criminal justice system, is to allow people to mount a credible defense. I don't think this is a radical change, because that is all this is intended to do.
And I asked Herbold why she brought this up now during the budget process. She said it's because there's going to get more scrutiny. She said right now she does have the support of 3 council members. She told me for this bill to move forward, she will need the support of 5 Seattle City Council members. There will be a lot of scrutiny and discussion in the next month. In fact, public comment going on right now as we speak. We'll have much more on this developing issue. In Seattle, Patrick Quinn, KOMO News.
All right, so Councilmember Herbold wants to basically get rid of some misdemeanors here based upon someone's current life experience. Now, I haven't read through the legislation. I'm gonna have to get on the phone with Kevin Schofield as usual, because he's reading through everything and really get into the weeds on this. But what are your thoughts, Trina?
I mean, right away, again, I think it's steps in the right direction. We're going to be seeing a lot of different innovation, reform, changes to policy, changes to processes. And this is another one of them. I'm glad that we're reporting on this because we're able to bring information to the public. Again, she's saying it's not a get out of jail free card. This is something that's new. So folks are going to have to, absorb it, take some time. And like you said, learn more. So I'm excited to maybe gain some more insight with Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, victims definitely have to be taken into consideration here. There's a lot of stuff where sometimes victims get left behind when people think about some of these things. And, the other thing is we have to be clear. There are some people who just really are criminals. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just really are, and they're really out there to do bad, and they're really out there to basically get away with as much stuff as they can. We see that on the street level. We see it at corporate level, corporate raiders, and some of everything else. There's people who just have, an inclination to be to commit crimes. But I don't like to talk too much about stuff that I really don't know everything about. I thought this was interesting to throw in here this morning. Like I said, I'm going to talk to Kevin Schofield about it more and get into the weeds. And maybe we can further this discussion to see if Lisa Herbold is on target or off target with it, right?
Well, one thing I do want to say, too, is that I think it's important to also address solutions around that. If they do get, off because of poverty or either of the other things that were there, well, then what is going to be there for them to ensure that they're not repeating those crimes? I think that that's really important too, though.
Yes, it is. So I talked to King County Prosecutor Dan Satterberg yesterday. These numbers have come out. The numbers are just horrible in regards to gun violence and gun crimes here in King County. They continue to spike. Like I said, not only here, but across the country. And I'll play a few clips here. The full interview is 14 minutes. It really hits on a lot of different things as in regards to what's going on here in King County. also as far as some solutions and different programs that they have going on. We'll play the first one right here, though. But I do want to encourage everybody. It should be up later on today, probably about 1 o'clock, to really watch this full interview with Prosecutor Satterberg.
Well, what it says in a nutshell is that gun violence in King County is highly concentrated among young people and in communities of color. 41% of the people who were shot so far this year were under the age of 25, and 74% were people of color. So that actually hasn't changed much over the years. It's been our real issue, which means the strategies have to involve investment in the community and investment in violence interruption and violence alternative programs. And we, as part of this data that we are keeping, we also know the names of the people who are most likely to be involved, either in people who've been around shootings, or, the statistics are pretty striking. If you know somebody who's been shot, your own chances of being shot go up about tenfold. If you've been shot once, your chance of being shot again are about 10 times higher. So people who are around gun violence and who know people who are involved in gun violence are highly at risk. And so we are able to take some of that information and share it with the community nonprofits that are willing to do the violence interruption work. And that's hard work to do. Not everybody wants to work with kids who are carrying guns or involved in that sort of thing. But we have some really good partners in our community, and it's time that we're going to invest a lot of money in them.
Right. Clearly the thing is the people who have been impacted by gun violence, that number hasn't necessarily changed, but the total number, the prosecutor says it's clear it's the same communities that are really impacted, mostly young and Black.
Yeah. And this is why it's so important that solutions are also rooted in those communities, right? I mean, when we talk about the concentration of the numbers, you can't deny these facts. I'm glad that they're actually paying attention to that and concentrating on that as well at that level.
Right. We've got another clip here from Prosecutor Satterberg.
Prosecutor Satterberg, when we look at this here, 59 firearm homicide victims, 197 non-fatal shooting victims, 767 shots fired incidents. I know you said that nationally these kind of numbers are up, but would you consider this almost a state of emergency here in King County around this gun violence?
I think gun violence is a public health emergency. And it's, as I said, it's also suicides and it's other harm that's caused by gun and the domestic violence where guns play a role in intimidation. But if we really took it as a public health crisis, then that would have us investing more in the things that prevent gun violence. And I think that's where we're heading with involving community groups into a much larger extent than we've ever done, to support victims and also to be in touch with people who look like they're heading into a real high risk situation. These are the conditions today when our social institutions are shut down, schools and parks and the kinds of things that community events that used to get people together to support each other, all that's disappeared. So in many ways, this is like the perfect condition to create more violence. And so we do need to pay people a living wage to do this work, because it's as important as any work that police do to get the community groups working with people who are at high risk of violence and to try to reduce their chance of being involved in gunfire. Because, every person who's murdered with a firearm, that costs our community millions of dollars in every way that we measure that, from hospitals to legal fees to lost support and wages, and not to mention just the trauma and the ongoing trauma that creates, and the chance of retaliation. So all of those things are real, and if we can start to bring the violence down, then we will realize a big return on our investment.
All right, one last question for you here, Prosecutor Satterberg. We had civil rights attorney Sade Smith.
There we go. I'll save that one there for later. But the prosecutor, and actually I talked to Prosecutor Satterberg about what Sade was saying yesterday with the FBI arresting protesters. So that is in the interview there as well. But I want to thank the prosecutor's office and Casey in the prosecutor's office for making the prosecutor available to us. This is gun violence is something that's unfortunately near and dear to our community. And they were sharing a bunch of their innovative programs that they're trying to do and work with over there in regards to gun violence.
It's amazing to know that, again, to see the inside of how they're seeing all of this. I think so much of the way that I approach all of this is from this community perspective. So I'm just grateful to have the insight. Oh, great interview, man.
Yeah, no, the whole interview will be up there, and like I said, they've put a lot of math and data into it. Like I said, if you know somebody who's actually been shot, if you know them directly, that increases your chance. Someone who's been shot before, then their numbers go up, and so they're even able to identify in a sense, and then be able to violence disruption. There's a lot of stuff that's going on down there in the prosecutor's office. Next up here, talk to somebody you work with over there at Africatown Community Land Trust. Big news, Africatown Community Land Trust teamed up with Councilmember Kshama Sawant. Kshama Sawant is trying to get $13.8 million from the city budget to buy the Cairo property on 16th and Yesler. Be short term, it'll be a shelter. In long term, the whole block will be developed to be affordable housing. Here's Wyking Garrett. Talked to him last night.
We have a unprecedented opportunity here where there was a square block of in the Central District on 16th and Yesler, right across from the historic Langston Hughes Performing Arts Center, and the organization had challenges and was, in a situation where they chose to sell, and it was acquired by Bellevue-based developer Shelter Holdings, which was proposing a market rate development, which would really just accelerate the displacement, would not be affordable to most of our community members, definitely not a lot of our creatives that are, working at, the Langston Hughes Performing Arts Institute. And community really rallied to say, we no to, this type of, predatory speculative development in our community. And based upon that, the developer, decided to halt the development and has offered to, sell the property so that it can be used as equitable development, and so this release is Councilman Sawant, stood and has, stepped forward to champion this as the critical opportunity that it is for the city to support equitable, heritage-rich, inclusive development, similar to what has been what we've worked on at Liberty Bank Building and now Africatown Plaza, and now we have an opportunity for a square block to be redeveloped, and that's the long term. In the short term, it presents a much needed opportunity for emergency shelter with culturally responsive resources and services to serve our community.
All right, so Wyking Garrett right there talking about this Cairo building on Yesler. I reached out to Councilmember Sawant. See, now all these people for months, they would look, so I called the council member. I said, man, let's talk about this development. Council member hit me right back, did an interview with the council member this morning. Like I said, Councilmember Sawant's looking for $13.8 million from the city. I mean, initially, what the council member said is that $30 million that was in that equitable fund that the mayor removed, that would have been a good place. But of course, council member said that also she's looking for $13.8 million from the SPD budget, wherever it might be. She wants to put an investment there on 16th and Yesler. Here's a short clip right here, and people can see the full interviews with Councilmember Kshama Sawant as well as Wyking Garrett this afternoon across all of our social platforms.
We've seen in the last decade the entire city being denuded of its working class population and marginalized communities because of the skyrocketing rents, the insane price of housing here. And we've seen tens of thousands of working people being pushed out of the city, facing longer commutes. and we're seeing escalating homelessness as well. So in addition to the pandemic and the recession that ordinary people are being faced with right now, we already had a housing affordability crisis. And the sharpest point of this housing affordability crisis, of course, has been seen in the fact that the Central District, which used to be over 80% Black at one time, is now, in 2016, the statistics showed it was less than 18% Black, and now it's even less than that. So it is really a mission for those of us who are fighting against racism and for housing affordability, and for this city to be affordable and livable for all of us, regardless of income, not just for the rich. It is important that we push forward on housing affordability on every front. And this project from Africatown is a very important opportunity for us to bring in some affordable housing in our district. And it's right on Yesler. This is the kind of affordable housing we want, where we have our community come back and live in the Central District.
All right, Trey, we're up against the break right here. We got to bring in Nikki on a special project that we got. So Nikki's in the waiting room, and then we got Brian Callanan on the other side of the break. But real quick, $13.8 million. I know that you work there, Africatown Community Land Trust. So you're definitely involved in this project. Do you guys see being the Councilmember Sawant being able to find $13.8 million for the city to be able to purchase this property? Do you feel there's enough support that she'll have there in the council and in the community?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously that's always the hope, the goal. I definitely feel very positive about the opportunity to go after this money in this regard and taking this approach. So, you know what, honestly, we're excited to be partners with Councilmember Sawant in this regard and make sure that, we bring about some real affordable housing, like she said, right there to that corner on Yesler. Is going to be important. And furthermore, what we've been doing on the community side is really engaging with our Asian community brothers and sisters, our indigenous brothers and sisters in the community, to really have a real inclusive center and an inclusive space that really represents all of that history for all of the cultures that have been there. All right. So before we go to break, and when we come back from the break, we're going to continue talking about City Hall with an expert. I'm talking about Brian Callanan. Yeah, he's, knows some of everything down there. But before we do that, I need to bring in producer Nikki Barron.
Hi.
No, you're a little fuzzy, Nikki.
Oh well.
We can hear you though. But, and you're on freeze frame too. At least when my brother was freeze frame the other day, he had this nice smile. You're on freeze frame. We're taking you out the stream. We're gonna have to come back. Oh no, there you go. Okay, she was coming. There's Nikki. What's up, Nikki?
Hey.
So let me introduce this. They say when I was over in Tanzania, they used to say it's better to be late in this world than early for the next. Mm-hmm. This is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and why don't you tell everybody about what we got going on?
Yeah, I'm really excited. So we are launching our breast cancer awareness logo tees. So so there's kind of two cool parts about this. So the first is that a percentage of every sale on the t-shirts will actually go to Sierra Sisters. And that is a Black-run organization here in Seattle that offers support to breast cancer survivors. So we'll be making a portion of the proceeds from this into over to them. So that's the first exciting part. The second exciting part is we have moved all of our printing locally. So the t-shirts are super high quality, the hoodies are really high quality, and we'll be able to have those printed right here in Seattle, which we before weren't able to do. So yeah, and we decided to launch this because I spoke with the people over at Neighbor Care Health, and they sorry, Bobby was trying to get me the internet. So at Neighbor Care Health about breast health for Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
All right, this is great. And so, Nikki, how do people find these shirts?
So just head over to the website and you'll see the shop button in the top right corner. So it's whereweconverge.com. I'll also put it here in the comments for everybody.
All right, Nikki Barron. Let me. Yay! There's Nikki, and we got a segment. We got from Nikki later on in the show. Man. So like I said, it took us a minute to get these out. We wanted to find a local printer and everything else. Man, it's for a great cause. Make your way over there to our website, whereweconverge.com. Look for the shop button. It's a limited edition breast cancer awareness tees, and we're donating for an excellent and outstanding cause. Yeah. We're going to take a short break right now. When we get back, we have Brian Callanan. You are watching the Morning Update Show.
My parents coming over here as refugees meant that they didn't really have anything when they came to America. Having reliable healthcare and having a reliable doctor was really important. 共同鼓励 jam ite 鼓励
我的社区，我的诊所 Mi comunidad, mi clínica
بلشدة هي بقارها
My community, my clinic.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. And now we're joined by Brian Callanan. How are you?
I'm great. Good to see you guys. Hey, Trey, how's it going?
All right. Hey, Brian.
Yeah.
I knew this was going to happen.
What's up?
I knew this was going to happen because, yesterday we had Tony B, and every time Tony B comes on, people get in the comments like, Tony B sounds like butter. And now today we got you. You know what I'm saying? You hear him, Trey? It's like...
It's kind of you to say, Omari. It's kind of you to say. Yeah.
Oh man. So Brian Callanan, a lot of people who know and even people don't know, over at the Seattle channel, you've been over there making incredible programming, award-winning programming for years. Yeah, man. And I now I can't say that a few years ago I used to watch the Seattle channel, but now I do.
You better. It's important stuff. I mean, I'll just jump in. I mean, I started working there in 2011, and I'm an independent contractor working for Seattle Channel. There's the way the job works. But it was really important to me to get involved in some different way. I was a reporter at Q13 for many years. In the year 2000, 2011, I worked in Spokane and in Southern Oregon before that in TV news. And I've really found with the Seattle Channel something that I think Converge is all about, trying to find something that can be a little more objective, that isn't influenced by different things, but is really trying to reach out to the public and inform them about what's happening in their city government. Because as you know, Omari, there's a lot of stuff going on out there that people aren't keeping their eye on necessarily. And if I can provide that extra link to city government, to our local leaders and whatever else, then that's what I'm all about.
Now, so give us a little bit of insight. So we popped on a few things here. We've got budgets going on right now. We've got this thing with Herbold right now. What kind of gems can you give on our viewers as to what you're seeing?
Man, I'm just seeing a time right now for the council where they're trying to figure out where their feet are going to land. I mean, we're right in the middle of this budget process. We're probably about a little more than halfway through, and it's important to recognize that. This budget really isn't going to be fully cooked until a couple weeks from now. But in those next couple weeks, there's going to be a lot of action going on, Omari. And I think the two main things that I'm keeping my eye on, now granted this deal with Councilmember Herbold working on the misdemeanors, we're going to have to keep an eye on that. It's not a formal bill just yet, nothing like that, but we are going to keep an eye on that. But the big things I'm keeping my eye on are the way the homeless outreach piece for the city council and the mayor involved there start to evolve over the next couple of weeks, like what goes on there, where are those dollars exactly going to go? Because while I think there's a lot of effort towards providing some affordable housing, whatever else. And we've heard a lot about this on this show and many others, certainly on Seattle Channel. There really is an immediate need. And I think we've heard that expressed in different neighborhoods all across the city of Seattle. They're saying, wait a minute, we don't have this navigation team anymore. I guess we can work with that, but how are we going to do this when we actually have an encampment that's in the middle of the street that is causing some issues? People can't get around it or whatever else, or maybe it's a public safety problem in a larger way. So I think that's going to be a big focus for me over the next little bit. And also I think it's going to be, and I know you've talked about this plenty, this whole idea of how the city is going to be investing in BIPOC communities. I know the mayor put out her plan talking about $100 million a year over the next 10 years. In talking with a number of different city council members, I just had a couple on the show with this last week here. Councilmember Morales in particular, she's concerned about that in terms of where is this money actually going to come from? And when you talk about taking from things like the Mercer Mega Block, and I know you've touched on this too, but when you talk about taking from the Mercer Mega Block, which is really intended for, bottom line in here, BIPOC communities, then are we robbing from one project to give to another? I'm going to be really interested to see where those dollars are coming from. And those are the two big ones I'm looking at right now, homeless outreach and that BIPOC investment.
Man, but between you and Schofield, man.
Come on now. Where am I going? Where am I going? Right? Kevin's got it going on. You know that. And just so everybody knows, I do the Seattle News, Views, and Brews podcast with Kevin Schofield from Seattle City Council Insight. And Omari, thank you so much for airing it on Converge here, because it means a lot to me to be able to reach out to people in different ways. I know it means a lot to Kevin too. But yeah, we get a little wordy and nerdy on the show sometimes. But I think that's a good thing. I think people want, and we've heard from a number of the people that patronize us through Patreon, et cetera, that they're looking for something a little deeper. You know, they've heard the sound bites and all that kind of stuff. They've seen, the minute and a half piece that might be on some of the local networks TV. I've done some of those pieces, right? Those shorter bits. So when I'm able to get into it a little bit more and get a little more comprehensive about it, I think it means something to me. And I think it means something to people who want to take the time and check it out.
All right. Now, speaking of news, Brews and Views airs every Wednesday right here at 6 p.m. And the thing is that, the reason why I reached out is so many people in our community wanted to know more.
Yeah.
Like we when the protests really moved into City Hall,
right.
I didn't have the expertise in City Hall. And, I was talking to Kevin and this and that, and he was like, man, you guys have this show, News, Views, and Brews. And I was like, man, and I talked to you about it. I was like, Brian, if we could air this on Converge, it would be great, because so many people in our community who are never interested in politics or anything else, they're so interested, and your show serves a really big purpose. And speaking of that, let me drop this real quick.
Look at him go.
Look at the conversation.
All right.
With creating a new outreach system, our conversations about 2020 don't lock us in as a council to committing to any given model for 2021.
That's Seattle City Council member Andrew Lewis, chair of the council's Committee on Homelessness. He's talking about a new approach to unauthorized encampments in Seattle, one of many major budget issues starting to heat up here this fall. So everybody, breathe in, breathe out. Get calm if you can, because it's about to get wild here on Seattle News, Views, and Brews, your favorite coffee break political podcast. I'm Brian Callanan. I'm also a host on Seattle Channel here. The views expressed here are my own. And in this corner, in the gold lame trunks, the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, it's Kevin Schofield from Seattle City Council Insight. Hello, Kevin.
Hey, I thought the gold lame trunks would be a good look for this morning.
I love it.
And Kevin, what a chemistry there. That's a preview of the show that's airing tonight at 6 o'clock. Maybe you can tell everybody what tonight's show's about.
Yeah, well, I was just kidding around about the gold lame trunks. I'm not 100% sure on that with Kevin, but that's kind of his style. You never know. He's always punching there. Anyway, we like to try to, where we can, take a step back and put a smile on our faces when we're covering some of these different issues, because it's difficult to do that, as you know, during some of these times. So we do try to look at things where in such a way that we can get a good distance from it and get a good handle on what's happening. So in terms of the show tonight, Omari, we're talking about a few of the issues that I touched on earlier. It's really about where we are in this budget process and this battle within the council right now to try to find some funding for homeless outreach. That's a big piece of it. And also this continuing battle when it comes to police funding. How is that actually going to break down when you have so many officers, as was reported last week, leaving the department, 110 of them? That's ahead of the pace where Seattle was certainly last year, and ahead of just about any pace that they've recorded at the SPD over the past decade plus. So there's concerns about that. I know we've heard from the mayor and the chief of police about that. So there's some issues there that the council is still working out. In terms of other issues there, we're also talking about the West Seattle Bridge, one of the 4 city emergencies that Seattle is dealing with right now. Is it going to be repaired? Is it going to be replaced? There's actually a big decision coming up. Hopefully later this week, we're going to hear from the community task force that's been working on this. They're advising Mayor Durkin along with SDOT there. So hopefully we're going to get some more information from them and figure out where the mayor's going to go on this one, because this is a big potential cost. Is it going to be that smaller upfront cost with a repair, but shoot, we're going to have to replace it later? I think there's a lot of issues still to sort out with that one. And then we're going to catch up on a couple of different court cases that Kevin's been following, specifically with regard to Black Lives Matter and ACLU dealing with the SPD.
Yeah, I think I got some footage in some of those cases, man.
Yep. Just a little bit, I'm sure. Yeah.
Before we let Brian go, did you have any questions for Brian, Trey?
You know what I really wanted to say is that I kind of echoing Omari's statements a bit here, because I think what we're experiencing is that it's not just about folks in the community, but just so many people are trying to get educated right now. We see it as a nexus in our community. But I really wanted to ask you, I mean, you talked about, why you really wanted to start this and being able to dig deep. What are some of the greatest things that you've been able to really uncover since you guys have started?
That's a great question. Yeah, hit it. Yeah, that's a good question. It's one of those situations where I think that's kind of evolved over time. I would say that what is most uplifting to me, this is a really good question, Trey, in terms of stuff that I've uncovered within the city here. I think it would probably be, let me look at a recent example here. You know what? I'm gonna turn to the West Seattle Bridge show that I did on City Inside Out a couple of weeks ago, and I talked about it a little bit with Kevin this week here. I think it's trying to uncover the truth behind matters, because you'll see, and we all know this, there's different spins that you'll see from the mayor, there's different spins you'll see from the council, but when you're able to bring in all those different sides, not only them, but also that community voice, you can see sometimes that story gets a little bit clearer. When you get those different angles on it, I think that's really true. So I'm happy with that. And I'll say full disclosure here, I'm from West Seattle, and it was interesting to me to actually take a closer look beyond that. And figure out something that I think is not only going to be a big issue for West Seattle, but for the whole city in terms of how are we repairing bridges? What's up, Ballard? What's up, Magnolia? You got some old bridges too. How are we going to do that? So that's one, I think, in recent memory at least, that I really felt like we were able to kind of peel the lid off of it a little bit, take a closer look at it, and get some better information out to people.
It's a great example, Brian. Thanks for your work, man.
Yeah, back at you, Trey. Thanks.
Yeah. So before we let you go here, Brian, man, how can people get up with you? Seattle Channel.
Yep.
Everything you got going on?
All sorts of stuff. Of course, you can watch here on Converge, and thank you for doing that. If you do, that's Wednesday nights at 6:00. That's the video version of our podcast, Seattle News, Views, and Brews. The brews refers to the coffee. Now, if you're doing a beer break, that's a whole nother thing. We got to work on another podcast for that. But it's a podcast that you will find on Spotify, any of the normal places you'd find a podcast there. Comes out on Monday mornings. We've been cranking it out every week since the new year started here. So I take a lot of pride in that, trying to stay on record with what's going on with the city. I'm with Kevin Schofield from Seattle City Council Insight. So check anywhere you find a podcast for Seattle News, Views, and Brews. We would really appreciate it if people support us on Patreon. A few people have been gutty enough to make that happen. I know that's important to you, Omari, too. So that's where people can check me out. If you're on Seattle Channel, check me out there, too. Seattle Channel, Brian Callanan. I know a lot of people think it's Callahan, but you just chop the top off that H, and then you got it all set up there. So think of it that way, at Callanan Seattle on Twitter, at Callanan Seattle on Facebook, too. So check me out.
All right. Well, man, I'll tell you this, Brian, we appreciate you and, the information that you bring, the insights in City Hall. Like I said, there's so many people in our community now, more than ever. Now, some people, first time ever, that there's so much interest in what's going on in City Hall and everything else. And you guys provide great insight. And, man, we really appreciate you letting us air your show here on Converge. And for those people out there, man, if you're looking for other things, great things to support on Patreon, that's definitely a great show to support on Patreon and all of Brian's efforts, man. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right. Thanks a lot, Omari. See you around, Trey. All right.
All right, we're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, it's Wellness Wednesday right here on the Morning Update Show.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
All right, Trey Holiday. Look, it looks like Nikki Barron is still out there on stream. You know, this is her Wellness Wednesday, and I really think that she would probably be great to introduce it. Do we have you, Nikki? You're not frozen anymore.
Hello. That's really good because it's already pretty cold outside. I'm wearing my Converge.
Yeah, we got you frozen.
Getting warm. It's cozy.
You guys got to stop playing video games back there. They're using up all the bandwidth. But listen, we can hear you even if we can't really see you. Can you introduce this clip that we're getting ready to play here for Wellness Wednesday?
Yes, definitely. So I was able to catch up with the Chief Medical Officer, Meena Mittal, to talk about getting a breast cancer screening, who should get one and how you can get one, even if you're uninsured or underinsured.
All right, well, let's play this now.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to a special segment of Wellness Wednesday for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which is this month. And I am here with Meena Mittal, the Chief Medical Officer at NeighborCare Health. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great. So let's dive right in. So I had a couple questions here for you about breast health. So the first is, what is the best way to detect breast cancer and why is it important to check?
So the best way to detect breast cancer is to do what we would call age-appropriate screening, which really means mammograms for women in certain age groups. And it's very important to be on top of your screening as a woman because there are available treatments for breast cancer. So finding it early is really important.
And so who should get screened and how often should we be doing these screenings?
Yeah, it's a really confusing question at times because there's a lot of controversy out there. If I were to summarize, I would say women in the age range between 40 and 50 should talk with their provider about the appropriateness of breast cancer screening. There are pros and cons to doing it and different guidelines out there. But based on her history, a woman may decide to start screening in that age range. And then after age 50, pretty universal that getting regular mammograms is important. So it's good to remember that. And then I would just put a caveat that those are the recommendations for women of what we would call average risk. So if a woman has a personal history of breast cancer, a family history of breast cancer, or a known genetic mutation that increases her risk of breast cancer, it may be different and really important to talk to their provider about it.
Right. And so where can people get screened for this?
So there are all sorts of locations around the city. Many of the major healthcare delivery organizations have breast centers where you can get mammograms. And then at NeighborCare Health, we also have mammo vans, so vans that come to our clinics on a regular basis to make it really easy and convenient for women to come and get their mammograms.
And where can someone find out where a mammo van will be near them?
So the best way would be just to call NeighborCare Health, our main line, and we could help you get hooked up with a mammogram.
Great. And so I actually, personal story, when I was 20 years old, I was laying at home watching some late night television, and they used to run these ads about self-exam. And so I was laying on the couch and I was like, okay, I was like doing the exam, and I actually found a lump, and it was super scary.
Yeah.
Went in, got checked, ended up just being a benign cyst, and they removed it just to be safe. Do you guys still recommend the self-exam? Is that still something that's recommended?
You know, there isn't very strong clinical evidence for either clinical breast exam or self-exam anymore. That said, although there isn't specific recommendation for women to do self-exams, and again, this is an average risk women, it is a good idea to sort of know your own breasts, because a lot of times women are the ones who find something that's different and can bring it to the attention of their clinicians on a timely basis. So while it's not necessarily recommended to do self-breast exams, it is a good idea to know your own breasts.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time. This was super helpful and informative. And we will put the phone number up where people can call Neighbor Care Health and find out where the Mama Van will be. Oh, and I guess I had one more question. And this is just about Neighbor Care Health in general. If you don't have insurance or if you are underinsured, people can still go and get this exam, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, at Neighbor Care Health, it's really important to us to serve our entire community. So we have services to ensure that we can connect people who are underinsured or uninsured.
Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Nikki Barron, good stuff. As usual, you stay on top of these things. Can you hear me,
Yes,
Nikki?
I can.
Okay, well, you're still.
Maybe I'm smiling in this
You're
one at
still
least.
frozen. Well, not quite, but you don't look too bad. Before we cut you loose, Nikki, and we'll see if we can get that hamster that's powering the internet where you at to run faster. But but we do. I don't know if you can see it or not, but we do have the Converge Breast Cancer Awareness tees up. If you could tell everybody about them one more time before we let you go.
Yes, so we just launched our breast cancer awareness logo tees. It's a limited edition version of our logo with the pink infinity sign. And we are actually donating a portion of the proceeds to a local Black-run breast cancer survivor organization called Sierra Sisters. So Sierra Sisters was founded by Bridget Hempstead after she had her own diagnosis with breast cancer. So she built a support organization, and the name is actually rooted in African origins, Sierra meaning knowing, reminding us that knowledge is power. So if you pick up a Converge shirt, we're going to give donations from every one of these shirts over to this local organization to help try to, help support the Black community in this area for sure. And and hopefully remind everybody to go get an exam.
You know what? Let me just say that this is another great partnership with Converge, uplifting, folks in community that have been working literally to help those in community figure out how to be connected to the resources you just highlighted in Wellness Wednesday. So shout out to Bridget and everybody at Sierra Sisters. Love Bridget in community. So I just love that these kind of connections are happening. Omari, you are doing all the things, bro. I love it.
I'm saying, man, we got to run fast. I mean, we without delay, we have to do as much as we can while we can for our community without delay. It's team no sleep over here.
That's right, baby.
All right, Nikki Barron, thank you.
Hi.
Yeah, man. Nikki, man, she stay on the grind, on the real deal. It's 12 o'clock. I'm gonna save it for tomorrow, but for tomorrow we'll talk about the city of Tacoma, the mayor of Tacoma. And by the way, there's been 3 Black mayors in Tacoma, but the current mayor of Tacoma is trying to figure out a way to make Tacoma an anti-racist city. And 217,000 residents in Tacoma. The mayor has a very ambitious plan. And I think we'll talk about that tomorrow. We got 1 or 2 more things we'll discuss tomorrow. Programming notes. Any notes from your side?
You know what? Chats with Trey coming up Friday, 2 p.m. I'm excited for this episode. We're going to be highlighting Miss Dabrina Jackson Gandy. I know that she's excited because she gets to interview with you too. So, I mean, Dabrina's been doing amazing things in our community, specifically with regard to economics, one of your big pillars. So I loved being able to connect with her, and I'm glad that the folks will be able to learn more.
All right, and I see actually I've got this video that's in here. One of our top performing shows is actually Vote Black Love. I mean, people are watching politics and who's gonna win and this and that and this initiative and man defund and so everything else. And sometimes people just want to watch some Black people who are in love. This week, I just got this over from Carlos Imani. This is the Dennis's, and this is Sunday, 7:00.
Hi, we're the Dennises. I'm Tinky.
And I'm Quadu.
And we can't wait to share our love story with you.
I like that. Made with Love. That's director and producer Carlos Imani of Vote
Doing
Black
big
Love.
things.
Yeah, man. That's what I'm saying. Then we have to run as fast as we can. It's no delay over here at Converge. There's many different things that we're able to do that works within our framework. Man, we work on these things around the clock. So we want to be able to say that we made a difference. And I think that we're still a ways away from that, but we're aspiring to one day be able to look back and say that when we were here, that we made a difference in our community and beyond. So
absolutely, I love that. There's some new mantras emerging at Converge right here. No delay, no excuses. I love it.
That's it. All right, Trey Holiday. We're getting ready to get out of here. And again, 6:00 tonight, tune in. You can catch Brian Callanan and Kevin Schofield for news, views, and brews. They're talking about coffee brews. They were talking about the other brews. Real informative show of what's going on with City Hall. And, that's the reason we brought it here on Converge, is so you guys have easier access to information that's out there. So that's tonight at 6:00. Until tomorrow at 11 a.m. Peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun.